So today, as you can tell from the title, I am sharing with you my first and most painful interracial dating experience. And this story is really close to my heart. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it is an integral piece to my heart. But I want to share it with you all because I want to show you that it is possible to claw your way out of the depths of darkness and depression and insecurity. And if this encourages just one person to heal from their past traumas and past wounds, then my story has done its job. So it all started in the late fall of 2011. I was 18 years old and a senior in high school, and I was possibly the latest bloomer at my school. I hadn't been kissed, I hadn't had a boyfriend, and other than one guy that I'm pretty sure in hindsight I just convinced myself to like because my friend said you have to like someone, I just wasn't interested in anyone at my school. Until one day in Trig, I was sitting next to two guys, and let's say that their names were Josh and Casey. And Josh and Casey were roasting one another. Literally, they were like saying the meanest possible things that two people could say to one another, and they were just going back and forth. And for some reason, I literally have no idea why, since I am like the most sensitive person on the planet, I just decided I wanted to join in. I wanted them to roast me. And Casey, he shrugged his shoulders and he said,
"What do you want me to say? You're super smart and you're really pretty. How am I supposed to roast you?"
And as simple as that was, there was something in how he said it that was just different. It's not that I had never been called pretty. It's not that I had never had absolutely any boys interested in me. I don't know, it's something I just can't explain. But from that second, it was over for me. And essentially, it was over for me for the next 8 or so years of my life. The day after that moment in class, Casey and I instantly became close friends. Which is really funny because we had known each other for like 10 plus years, and up until that moment in Trig, we had never spoken more than like, I don't know, 2 words to each other. So the next day we saw one another in gym class, and after like a really funny and kind of embarrassing moment where I bit into a donut and the raspberry filling actually spilled out onto his jeans, pretty mortifying at that time. But after that moment, we exchanged phone numbers and we talked every second of every day. I'm talking, we would literally fall asleep on the phone talking to one another and wake up still talking to one another. And eventually, Casey invited me to the first cool kid party that I had ever been invited to or had the chance to go to. And that night was just incredible. We sat on like a log in front of the fire and we talked until like 3 a.m. and I'm pretty sure I got in major trouble. And that night on that log in front of that fire was the first time that I had ever felt like I had found my person. And I didn't feel that again for a very long time. And like most things in the beginning, it was a really incredible experience. Casey was incredible. He was funny, he was smart, he was so affectionate. He loved history, and we pretty much loved all of the same music, which at 17 years old is a really big deal. But he was an ass. He was mean. He was insensitive. He was selfish, and he was just so inconsiderate. And he told me in so many ways that I blatantly ignored that he didn't want me. Like how we would fall asleep talking to each other on the phone, and then at school, depending on the mood he was in, he wouldn't even look at me at school. Or like the time he invited me to a party, and then after I started drinking because he told me I needed to loosen up, I got too drunk and he wouldn't talk to me, he wouldn't look at me, he wouldn't spend any time with me because I had gotten too sloppy. The cycle continued over and over and over. And then came the first of the two moments that ultimately broke me. This is hard, I'm sorry. It was one night during Christmas break, and it was another one of those nights on the phone for hours at a time. And he told me, and it was actually pretty sporadic, it was pretty random. We weren't talking about us, our relationship, or anything. We were just kind of talking. And he just randomly decided to tell me that he was falling in love with me and that he could see us having a future together and that he wanted to have a future with me. And I can't even begin to convey the happiness that I felt at hearing that. And it wasn't even just happiness, it was like peace, it was like contentment. Again, it was the first time where I felt like I had met my person. I felt like my soul was coming home. And when I was a teenager and just throughout my childhood and definitely into my adulthood, but especially as a child going into becoming a teenager, my soul was just so weary. And then Casey was gone. No text, no phone calls, no nothing. He was gone. He had vanished. And I didn't hear from him at all until the end of break. And I remember the first day back at school after winter break, as I was getting out of my car, walking through the parking lot onto the campus field, I remember seeing him, and he was sitting on a bench right in front of the parking lot, in front of everyone, with his ex-girlfriend. And he looked at me as I passed him, and I looked at him, and neither of us said anything. But time passed, as it does, and somehow, some way, he came back, and I let him. And he apologized. He told me that he had been a complete idiot, that he felt so awful for what he had done, and that he just regretted it so much. And most importantly, he had meant everything that he had said that night on the phone, and he kissed me under the bleachers at a football game, and that was my first kiss. But as he always did, he quickly ruined a special moment, because he told me that despite how much he liked me, how much he cared about me and wanted to be with me, he was going with another girl to prom. Wanted to go with me, but he couldn't because, and I quote verbatim, his family would have killed him if he took a black girl to prom. And that was that. I was broken. I was absolutely broken. Other than a few passing remarks in the hallway, we didn't talk again for the rest of the year. And we graduated. I went to college. He went to college. Year passed. And believe it or not, I had almost forgotten what it was like to love him until he sent me a message. And then it all came back. And just like that, we were back on. He was back. And then just like that, he was gone. And the cycle continued. And before I knew it, 2011 had turned into 2015. I was in a relationship. I was really happy. I really was. But I relentlessly dreamed about Casey. I mean, relentlessly. Night after night, dream after dream, multiple dreams in one night. Of course, when he finally reached out to me, I answered. This time, I didn't go to him, and I didn't let him come to me. I really wanted to do right by the person I was with at that time. But then 2015 turned into 2019. My relationship had ended, and even though 4 years had passed, my dreams were still so relentless. Still saw him. I still heard him. If I focused and just closed my eyes, I could almost feel him. I reached out, and he responded. He was back, and we were back. And then he was gone. And this time It hurt, but I wasn't broken. I was sad, but I wasn't broken. I missed him, and I think I will always miss him. But I wasn't, and I'm still not broken.